My hands were shaking, and the crate in my arms was the only reason nobody could tell. I was standing in the third row of the Geneva reception hall, sweat sliding down my back, while the most powerful being on the planet walked slowly past a line of the finest soldiers Earth had ever produced. Her name was Sylthir Vosikai, heir to the Kryvena throne, and she had arrived in orbit 6 months earlier, with a ship the size of a small city and eyes that seemed to look straight through skin and bone. I was 19. I was a private. I had no business being in that hall at all, except that my commanding officer had come down with a fever that morning, and someone needed to carry the translation equipment. Nobody expected me to matter. I did not expect myself to matter. The princess stopped in front of General Okonkwo, a tall man with 4 decades of command behind him and a chest full of medals that caught the light every time he breathed. She studied him for a long moment, her head tilting slightly, and then she moved on without a single word. She stopped in front of Priya, an Olympic champion whose reflexes were famous across 3 continents. Nothing. A blink of her deep violet eyes, and she moved on again. She reached a colonel near the end of the line, a quiet man whose file I had only glimpsed once and never forgot. She stood in front of him for almost a full minute. The air in the hall grew so tight I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then, without explanation, she moved past him too. I remember thinking, somewhere in the back of my exhausted mind, that she was searching for something, and that none of these remarkable people had it. Then she reached me. I had done nothing to deserve her attention. I was holding a crate too heavy for my arms, and I was fairly sure I smelled like nervous sweat and bad coffee. But she stopped in front of me, the way someone stops in front of a door they have been searching for their whole life, and the entire hall went silent. "You," she said. Her translator device rendered the word in careful, flat English. "What is your rank?" "Private," I said, and my voice cracked in the middle of the word, like I was 13 years old again. Somewhere behind me, I heard someone mutter what sounded like a prayer for my career. "Your record. What have you done?" "Nothing, really," I said. "I've been in for 8 months. I've never been anywhere important. I'm just carrying equipment today." I expected her to look disappointed and move on, the way she had with everyone else. Instead, something in her shoulders relaxed, as if she had been holding her breath for a very long time and had finally been allowed to let it go. "Good," she said. That was the moment my life stopped making sense. The diplomatic staff did not know what to do with a princess requesting a private meeting with an unranked teenager. There were meetings about the meeting. There were 3 separate translators brought in, just to make sure nothing was misunderstood. In the end, I was brought aboard her ship 2 days later, still not entirely sure whether I was about to be given a medal or quietly removed from the planet. The ship was called the Orith's Crown, and walking through its corridors felt like walking through the inside of something alive. The walls pulsed faintly with blue light. The air smelled like rain on stone. Sylthir met me in a garden near the center of the ship, full of plants that glowed on their own, needing no sun at all. "You must be wondering why I chose you," she said, before I could even find a place to stand that felt respectful. "That's one way to put it," I said. "Everyone in that hall was smarter than me, stronger than me, more decorated than me. I've done nothing." "That is exactly the point," she said. "On my world, a warrior is shaped from the moment they can walk. By the time a Kryvena soldier stands in a formal hall, they have already faced situations that would break most beings. It changes how a person moves, how they breathe. There is a particular stillness that settles into someone who has stared down real danger and survived it, again and again, until fear itself becomes a familiar guest. I can read that stillness the way you read a face." "And everyone in that hall had it?" "Every single one," she said. "Your general has it. Your champion has it, buried under discipline and training. Your colonel wears it like a second uniform, layered so deep I doubt he even notices it anymore. It is not a flaw, it is simply a known thing. My father's court is full of known things. Every alliance we have built across 100 worlds was built the same way, strength recognizing strength, one hardened soul greeting another. I did not travel across the stars to find another mirror of what I already have at home." I didn't understand yet, but I listened. "You," she continued, "stood in that hall shaking, sweating, holding something you were clearly never trained to carry, surrounded by people who could have broken you without effort. And you did not run. You did not pretend to be someone you are not. You simply stood there, honestly, because someone needed the equipment moved, and you were the one available to do it. That is not weakness. That is a kind of courage my world stopped producing centuries ago, because we trained it out of every child before they turned 10. I wanted to argue that I had simply been too scared to move, but something about the way she said it made me hesitate. Maybe those were the same thing, seen from different directions. Your species already has soldiers who could stand beside our finest warlords, she said. That does not surprise me. What surprises me is that your ordinary people, your least remarkable citizens, still carry this same honesty underneath everything. If your bottom rung looks like this, I no longer need to ask what your best looks like. I need to ask what all of you become, once given a true reason to rise. That should have been the end of it. A strange, flattering speech from an alien princess, followed by a quiet return to my ordinary life, stacking crates and cleaning equipment. Instead, 3 weeks later, the real trouble began. A signal came through the deep relay stations at the edge of our solar system, garbled and repeating, the kind of transmission that made every technician on the Orith's crown go quiet at once. It was Cryvena in origin, sent from a research outpost near the outer rim of their empire, a place called Thessa Hollow. The message was short. It said that something had gone wrong with an experimental containment field, and that the facility's automated defenses had sealed every exit before anyone could escape. Scialthir received the news standing perfectly still, the same stillness she had described to me weeks earlier, finally visible on her own face. My younger cousin is stationed there, she said, along with 40 researchers and a security team. The facility is testing a new form of long-range energy transfer. If the containment field collapses completely, it will not simply harm the station. It will destabilize the entire system around it. Can't your fleet just go get them out? I asked. The facility's automated defenses were designed to prevent outside intrusion during containment failures, in case the field created something dangerous enough to spread. Any large ship approaching too quickly will trigger a full lockdown, sealing the interior permanently to protect everyone outside. The only way in is through a maintenance corridor small enough to avoid detection, using a single unarmed shuttle. She looked at me then, and I understood, with a sinking feeling, why she had told me the story of the reception hall so carefully weeks before. I need someone the facility's systems will not recognize as a threat, she said. A single presence, calm enough not to trigger the automated defenses, steady enough to guide my cousin and the others through the corridor before the field collapses completely. Every one of my own soldiers carries the signature of a trained warrior. The system will read that signature and seal the doors permanently. I need someone unarmed, someone honest, someone the machines will read as harmless. You're describing an untrained 19-year-old, I said. I am describing exactly the person I chose in that hall, she said. I would like to say I agreed immediately, out of pure courage, but the truth is closer to this. I thought about the researchers trapped inside that station, 40 people who had woken up that morning expecting an ordinary shift, and I thought about how easily that could have been me, on any ordinary day, waiting for someone else to come through the door. Tell me what I need to do, I said. The shuttle ride to Thessa Hollow took 11 hours, and for most of it, I sat quietly memorizing the layout of the maintenance corridor on a small display, while Scialthir spoke through a private channel to her cousin, a young woman named Elira, whose voice on the recording sounded remarkably calm for someone locked inside a station with a failing containment field. The field is stable for now, Elira reported, her voice thin through the static. But the automated systems have started sealing interior sections, one by one, treating the failure like a spreading infection. We have maybe 6 hours before the maintenance corridor itself gets sealed, along with everything else. You have to reach Section 4 before that happens, Scialthir told her. Someone is coming to guide you and the others out. Trust him completely. He will not look like what you expect. I arrived at the outer hull of Thessa Hollow alone, in a shuttle stripped of every weapon and every piece of Cryvena military equipment, wearing nothing but a simple environmental suit and carrying a small guidance beacon. The station's exterior lights blinked in slow, uneven patterns, a visual signal that something inside was very wrong. The maintenance corridor was barely wide enough for one person, cold enough that my breath fogged inside my helmet with every exhale. I moved through it slowly, watching small sensor lights along the walls, each one representing part of the automated system deciding, in real time, whether I counted as a danger worth sealing out. Every light stayed green. I reached the first interior checkpoint to find Alira waiting with 3 other researchers, all of them pale, all of them watching me with a mixture of hope and confusion, clearly expecting someone taller, someone armored, someone who looked like rescue was supposed to look. "You're the one my cousin sent?" Alira asked. "I know I don't look like much," I said, "but I'm what you've got. Let's move." We made our way through 3 more sealed sections, each door responding to my presence with the same calm green light, each one closing permanently behind us the moment we passed through. Somewhere behind those doors, other groups of researchers were not so fortunate, and I tried very hard not to think about the sounds of distant alarms growing quieter as more of the station shut down around us. The final stretch before Section 4 ran directly alongside the containment chamber itself, a long window of reinforced glass through which I could see the failing field, a swirling column of blue and white light pulsing faster than it should have, throwing strange shadows across the corridor walls. "The field is destabilizing faster than the models predicted," Alira said, checking a handheld display with shaking fingers. "If it collapses before we reach the shuttle bay, the release will spread through every open corridor on this side of the station." "How much time?" 15 minutes. Maybe less. The shuttle bay was still 4 sections away, and the automated system, sensing the acceleration of the failure, had begun sealing doors faster than we could reach them. I watched 3 green lights turn amber, then red, one after another, each closing door taking away another possible path forward. "There's a secondary route," one of the researchers said, a young man named Callum, who looked barely older than me, "through the old observation deck. It isn't part of the standard evacuation path, so the system might not have sealed it yet." "Might not have?" "It's our best option," Alira said. We ran. Not the confident, controlled movement of trained soldiers, but the desperate, uneven pace of ordinary people, trying to outrun a countdown none of us could see directly. The observation deck appeared exactly where Callum promised, its long windows showing the swirling storm of the containment field, growing brighter and faster with every passing second, close enough now that I could feel a strange, humming pressure against my skin even through the suit. The final door leading to the shuttle bay blinked amber as we approached, the sensor system clearly deciding, second by second, whether to seal it. I stepped forward first, alone, letting the sensor read only me, hoping that whatever quiet, unremarkable signal Scialtier had recognized in that reception hall weeks ago was still true now, when it actually mattered. The light stayed green. "Go," I said, waving the others through behind me. Quickly. One by one, they passed through, until only Alira remained, glancing back at the swirling light behind us, with an expression I recognized immediately, because I had worn it myself in that hall on Earth, the look of someone convinced they were about to be the one left behind. "Go," I said again. "I'm right behind you." She went. I followed, and the door sealed itself the instant my foot crossed the threshold, a fraction of a second before the containment field behind us finally collapsed completely, sending a brilliant flash of light through the reinforced glass we had just left behind. The shockwave rattled the walls of the shuttle bay, but the sealed door held, and the corridor beyond it, the very same one we had just run through, went dark and silent. We reached the shuttle with barely a minute to spare, and Alira guided it away from the station just as its outer hull lit up with warning beacons, signaling a controlled release designed to protect the surrounding system from the worst of the failure. 43 people made it out of Thessa Hollow that day. I later learned that 6 others, in sections the automated system sealed before anyone could reach them, did not, and I have never quite let go of the weight of that, even now. Scialtier met me personally when the shuttle docked back at the Areth's Crown, standing perfectly still in the same way she had months earlier in that reception hall, though this time there was no mystery left in her expression, only something quieter, something that looked almost like relief. "You did exactly what I hoped," she said, "and exactly what none of my own soldiers could have done." "I didn't do anything special," I said. "I just walked where the doors let me walk." "That is precisely the point," she said. A trained warrior would have triggered every sealed door on that station within minutes, convinced the system to treat the entire corridor as a threat, and sealed every remaining exit behind them. You walked through as yourself, nothing more, nothing hidden, and the machines read exactly what was there, nothing more, nothing hidden. That is rarer than you understand, and it saved 43 lives today. The treaty between Earth and the Kryvena Imperium was signed formally 2 months later, and historians will tell you it was built on careful clauses about trade routes and shared territory, and mutual defense. That much is true. But it was also built on a single, unremarkable private who once stood in the back row of a reception hall, holding a crate too heavy for his arms, and who later walked through a dying station, simply being exactly what he was, honest and unarmored, when everyone else around him had long since learned to hide it. I made Colonel eventually, years after that day, and I earned every bit of the calm, practiced steadiness that people now read on my face when I walk into a room. But some nights, when the ship is quiet and the stars outside look exactly the way they did from that first shuttle window, I still think about the version of myself who stood shaking in that hall, unfinished and afraid. And I remember that it was that version, not the one who came later, that a princess once chose above every soldier in the room.